Hi, everyone, and welcome to Clean at Work, the YouTube channel and podcast. My name is Sarah Baca, and today I have Harold Shinsato with me, and we are going to be talking about the Flourishing Futures open space and also the relevance of the relationship between clean language and open space. Thanks for joining me today, Harold.
Oh, my pleasure.
So let's start with you telling me a little bit about the Flourishing Futures open space that's coming up on November 6th.
I'm part of a 12-member committee that's inviting people from around the globe, mostly from facilitation communities, such as open space, such as clean language, systemic modeling, such as the National Coalition for Dialogue and Deliberation, and for the Agile software movement and liberating structures. But we're hoping that we can collaborate together at this event, which is a 3-day international open space, a global online event, to think about how we can flourish together, collaborate with these different wisdom and practice communities to come up with solutions that seem really important and relevant right now.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at everything, all the challenges we're facing, and look at lack and pain and suffering, and
so true.
And to imagine a flourishing future and how we get there.
Yeah.
It felt like the compelling purpose for this event.
Yeah.
And it's resonating with a lot of people.
Yeah, compelling is a good word, because I remember reading just the title and feeling like that almost drop in my belly of flourishing. Like, I feel like I'm not flourishing right now. I'm barely surviving with COVID and quarantine and the state of the world. And so I love that y'all are focusing all this talent and experience into this one event to create something really kind of magical sounding, it seems to me. It's really exciting. Can you tell me a little bit about what your experience has been? I know there are other creators for this event, but like, where did this come from? A little bit more about that.
I will. I'm very excited to talk about the intersection and the relationship with clean language and systemic modeling. But first, just to say, this idea of finding ways to collaborate with each other felt like this really powerful, driving, obvious thing that would be really beneficial for folks to come together and collaborate. And it was fascinating, because when we brought that purpose to our target markets and the facilitators from the different communities, including within open space, people don't see necessarily the value of just calling people in for collaboration. Maybe often it's felt like a waste of time, or people stay in their silos, and it ends up feeling, well, why am I here? Why are we bothering? What's the point? Where are we going? But having this flourishing future concept in front of it all seemed to resonate with folks and called them, more than when we just confronted them with climate change and political conflict and the COVID quarantines. And it just lit up. People lit up.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks. So then let's talk a little bit about the relevance of the relationship between clean language and open space. What are you thinking about that?
This felt like a no-brainer to me. I came to open space well before clean language. And when someone taught me about some of the concepts in clean language, it took a while for me to really get it. I didn't really get it until, and this is one of the big communities that's involved with this Flourishing Futures, is the Agile community that uses open space like crazy. I was at a big Agile conference, and I got to hear Caitlin Walker talk about systemic modeling and how clean language could be used to help people understand each other. Just regular students understanding each other's process of how they learn, and be able to support each other, to be curious rather than have contempt. And her message has gone through the Agile community like wildfire. And I just lit up inside. That just felt so powerful. And I've had the same feeling when I went to open space. And some of the things I felt that really helped me resonate with clean language and clean learning was being in agile open spaces with her, where I could follow your 2 feet, to be where you're learning or contributing, which is what open space is about. That I could be with that sense and notice the intersection more and more. And that intersection is there's a simplicity in open space. I'm not sure how familiar your folks are with open space, because it still surprises me how few really understand, because it's very simple. You're basically meeting in a circle, and online you have to imagine the circle, but it's still possible. But you're meeting in a circle, so there's a sense of everyone together, and everyone's being able to see each other. And then you help with a very short message to understand, to basically trust in emergent self-organizing principles, without using a lot of philosophy, but basically just encouraging people to follow your 2 feet, to be where you're learning and contributing, and to invite people to have some courage to maybe be that first person who wants to talk about something or ask a question, and have that vulnerability of putting it up on a wall for a specific time and place where no one may show up.
Right.
And oftentimes that's exactly what's happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's a painful experience. But even if you never propose anything, there's some courage required just to show up.
Right.
And say, well, I'm responsible for my experience here. If I'm not learning or contributing, I'm responsible to leave.
Right.
So what do I show up for, and what do I stay for?
Yeah. And
what do I do when I'm there?
That personal responsibility and the recognizing when you're getting and bringing value sounds really similar to me to systemic modeling and clean, and that, like, the whole what would you like to have happen, that's all about personal responsibility, right?
And what's really fascinating is if you're carrying a lot of contempt and drama with you as you walk around using your own 2 feet, it's really hard to learn, and it's really hard to contribute.
So true. Yeah.
So clean language and systemic modeling are helping people move from contempt to curiosity, makes someone a lot better inside of an open space.
Yeah.
No matter whether you convene a session or you just participate. And so there's, for me, this huge relationship between these principles, because the clean language is actually incredibly simple. There's such like a handful of questions, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But it's the level of mastery you need to get to really do that is
astounding.
It's astounding. It just is shocking me. And a lot of that is like what's going on inside yourself. The exact same thing is true of open space.
Right.
Exactly the same. There's 5 principles and a law that you don't even need to memorize. You could just recite them. And most of it's just you meet in a circle, you invite people to suggest the agenda because you start with nothing. And then everyone goes off and does the agenda in their different spaces. And then you come back together in the circle at the end. That's it. It's like you can learn it in 10 minutes. But it's really hard to be in that place, to just trust that people will find their curiosity and follow it and create something that works. And that the experience for people in open space has been quite miraculous and magical. It's changed my life for sure.
Yeah. And it's the sense of the people creating what happens and the emergence of that magic. And it's the same exact things that happen when we create models together in systemic modeling. And I understand how you learn at your best. You understand how I learn at my best. And all these things just kind of bubble up. And it's the same way in an open space. Things just bubble up. And then, like, that's where the magic is.
Yeah, it's like in clean language and systemic modeling, the magic's already there in everyone's systems. They already have magic they're carrying around with them.
You just have to get out of the way.
Just get out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is easier said than done.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the trust and vulnerability that comes along with all that is scary.
Yeah. So some of my hardest life lessons are the ones that I keep promoting for the last 15 years when at open space events with the originating principles is like whoever comes is the right people.
Yeah.
Whatever model comes out is the right model. It's hard to trust that one, but it's.
I don't like it because then I can't control it and I can't put it in my little rows and boxes and, I just have to trust that whatever happens is what was meant to happen. And it's so hard for me.
Especially when I'm thinking, well, your model's wrong. It doesn't work. It causes pain and suffering and like, uh-oh.
Yeah, whoop, there's that contempt.
There goes that contempt again. Because that model's been serving that person somehow. Right? It's working at some level for them. Otherwise, they'd be dead. They'd vanish.
Yeah, it's probably a brilliant solution for whatever's going on for them and their system, right? It may not make sense to my system. Yeah. It's really
how do I be curious enough to actually find that, find how that is actually working for them.
Right.
And just trust that, yes, it is working for them. Maybe whatever it is they're suffering with is part of their process.
Yeah. And that makes me think of that metaphor of the butterfly getting out of the chrysalis and like you have to let them get out so they strengthen their own wings. Yeah. Yeah,
the butterfly is one of the mascots of open space. And it's definitely true. You go in and you try to help people as the facilitator to do it better, and their wings get stunted.
Yeah, and rescue is my favorite position. I'm very good at it, so it's super hard. Yeah. So I think we could talk for hours about all of that. There's so much.
Oh, yeah. There was another topic I wanted to touch on before we moved on to something else around this intersection between open space and clean language systemic modeling, which is perhaps the most difficult thing in open space is not actually doing it. It's inviting people into it. And if you are a professional facilitator and you want to convene an open space, or even if you're just like for me, my first open spaces, I had no credentials as an open space facilitator. But the most important thing is just what they call the theme, which is what we spent a lot of time working on with this Flourishing Futures. So that little bit of text that reflects often a huge and the most important amount of work. Being curious about your clients, if you're a facilitator and you want to do open space, or being curious about your system, the system you want to influence. Well, even if you are a facilitator, your sponsor isn't going to be enough. You need to help them be curious about their overall system. And the clean language questions are one of the most valuable ways to get into that system. Is to be curious and ask them, well, what would you like to have happen? And then start understanding what they want to have happen and help maybe get the boss, or if it's not the boss who's the one actually inviting you to develop this conversation, but someone in the middle, then you need to help that person be curious both about above and below for the stakeholders. And clean language is like a profound way to do that.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a necessary component of doing that, doing it well. Necessary.
Yeah, that really makes sense. If you brought your own baggage and your own assumptions and stuff to that clean space, you could really affect it.
And using Caitlin's clean scoping model is a good way to see whether they're ready or not.
Can you
Not
say
just
more?
not just for clean language or systemic modeling, but are they ready for an open space?
Huh.
And if they are ready, then you're going to need, and they're going to need some curiosity.
Yeah.
And to be able to ask each other enough about their models of what they want to have happen so that it has a chance of actually happening.
Right.
Because once they go into contempt, they're going to close some doors around what could possibly happen with how they set up that invitation, where people might go, oh, well, I think since I don't have to go to that, I think I won't.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do open space without that, it isn't going to work. It's all about, if open space is all about invitation, where people have the permission to say no.
So the leader being ready means that they have to be okay with invitation, and they have to be okay with trust and emergence and all the stuff that we talked about. Because if they're not, then it won't work.
Exactly. Which is same true if you're going to be an effective systemic modeler. You need to be open to whatever happens, be able to dance with it.
Yeah. Sure. Accept and extend. Yeah. Anything else about that, or about the Flourishing Futures open space?
I'm very grateful that Clean Learning is a sponsor for the event.
Yeah.
So they're part of the conversation.
It's great.
And one thing I think is like maybe really valuable. Agile is a huge customer of Clean Learning. That people that are Agile coaches that are helping transform work around the planet, these people are just sucking up systemic modeling and clean language. There are many other communities that would benefit from this as well.
Totally agree.
So we just love to have more of you guys with us.
Yeah.
Us guys. I'm one of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And the more diverse ideas and backgrounds we can bring in, the bigger the magic, I think. Yeah. So we're all
And I can't. I would say that the lead guy on this event is Jake Yeager, and he loves clean language. And even with the two of us, that isn't necessarily going to get even more people curious about what's possible with systemic modeling. Having more people there will help us maybe even be able to do some sessions at the event about systemic modeling, about what's possible with it, to help us flourish together.
Yeah.
Really, really welcome you guys to look at the invitation, and you don't have to come to the whole thing.
Yeah, good point.
It's over 3 days, and it'd be great to have you join us.
Great. I will make sure we put a link in the show notes so people can sign up. And I know that I plan to go, so hopefully Harold and I will see you there. That's everything. Bye, everybody. Thanks, Harold.